Tropical Storm Sam is rapidly intensifying in the Atlantic Ocean. Looks right now to honestly be more of a hurricane than a tropical storm. The latest NHC advisory is out, so it has met that rapid intensification threshold. It was a tropical depression 24 hours ago at 35 miles per hour. Now it is a tropical storm with winds of 70 miles, near 70 miles per hour. So it's met that threshold of 35 miles per hour for rapid intensification. So, yeah, small Sam rapidly intensifying. Rapid intensification forecast to continue through Saturday. So at 11 p.m., the center of Tropical Storm Sam was located near latitude 11.2 degrees north, longitude 40.9 degrees west. It is moving west near west at 50 miles per hour. It has slowed down slightly from 16 miles per hour, and this motion with a decrease in forward speed is expected through Saturday. A motion towards the west-northwest and even slower speed is forecast and expected late Saturday into Sunday. Sam is rapidly intensifying, and maximum sustained winds have increased to near 70 miles per hour, with higher gusts. Rapid intensification is forecast to continue through early Saturday. Sam is likely to become a hurricane, quote, very soon, and it could be a major hurricane by Friday night or early Saturday. Sam is a small tropical storm. Tropical storm force winds extend outwards only 45 miles from the center. Pressure's 997, so the pressure's falling, and the next complete advisory is at 5 a.m. However, I'm looking at the satellite. This thing looks a lot more like a hurricane than it does a tropical storm. So, yeah, as you can see, that center of circulation starting to whipsaw right there. Like, you can see it right there in these last few frames. You can see it starting to whipsaw. This thing honestly looks a lot more like a hurricane on satellite than it does on just, yeah, this is what it looks like right now. Keep in mind, this is a very small system. So, yeah, you can really see this on the extended satellite. So, yeah, this system is, yeah, it's 70 mile per hour. This looks more like a hurricane, like I said. So you can see that minus 80 cloud tops have faded to more than minus 70s, but yeah, it looks very impressive on satellite at this time. This thing is rapidly intensifying, expected to become a hurricane, quote, very soon. So if it's not already a hurricane, it's going to be a hurricane the next couple of hours. I just want everyone to know that right now. That's essentially what the NHC is saying. So we have the cone right here. That slowdown is expected to start on Saturday, which, if it slows down like that, it could tap into those very warm waters in the Atlantic and really intensify even further. NHC keeps that at a 125 mile per hour estimate as Category 3 hurricane. I think that's conservative considering the environment it's going through at this point. And the models somewhat agree. Some of the models agree with that. And we'll first get to the tracks, then we'll get to the intensity. Tracks models continue. Like, some of the models start splitting off, have it going more towards the west northwest, and then just moving towards there. And others just keep it at a westerly motion, then starting that turn towards the west northwest as the NHC is forecasting. I think those models are more accurate, in my opinion. Now let's get to the intensity. We'll get to everything else first, but we finally now have a model that has it going up to Category 5 strength. That's the first time we have seen that for Sam. So yeah, according to one model, we have it going up to Category 5 strength, but this is, keep in mind, this is just one model. There are plenty of other models. At this point, Category 5 isn't off the table, but for the current time, it's a bit outlandish, but again, not off the table. So, yeah, like I said, the majority of models now have it jumping up to Category 3 strength. There are more models that have it going up to Cat 4 strength. There are, I believe, 5 or 6 that have it going up to Cat 4. And if this thing intensifies the rate it continues to intensify. Heck, it might even intensify much quicker if it continues at this pace. So 24 hours from now, if it continues intensifying at this rate at 10 miles per hour per 6 hours, it's going to get to 110 miles per hour in 24 hours. And the majority of modeling seems to agree with that. And then in 36 hours, if it continues, then it's going to be a low-end Cat 4, which let's hope it doesn't get that strong. But at this point, it's becoming increasingly likely at this point. So there we have it. This is the satellite. I'm gonna pull this back actually 75 frames to show you what's been going on during the day. As you can see, it started organizing right here. Then that convective burst began, and it's just taking a second. There we go, the convective burst. And then after that, that system really started rotating very quickly. The center of it started just rotating very fast. And this is a small storm too, so that's expected to happen with these things. Smaller these systems are, like this is basically like an ice skate, is basically a figure skating in the ring. If you have your arms extended out, generally you're going to be going at a slower motion, but you're going to have a lot of bigger. You're going to be a lot bigger, and you're going to use a lot more space. Where if you're really tight in here, you're going to go a lot faster. So, yeah, it's basically, this is what's happening. It's a small system, and it appears to be strengthening rather than expanding in size at this point. So, yeah, I think NHC keeps it at 125 miles per hour. After that, I'm not sure why. My theory is that it might undergo an eyewall replacement cycle, or considering how small the system is, and if the eyewall replacement cycle doesn't go very well, it could knock it down a few in intensity. But if it does go really well, it won't really knock itself in intensity, but it will really expand in size. So I think the reason NHC keeps it at 125 miles per hour is that's one theory. That's one theory I have. Might be undergo an eyewall replacement cycle if it gets to that point, which, if that's the case, then it'll just expand in size as well, because even though if the winds decrease, they also expand in size. It's like that figure skater I just talked about. So, yeah, considering if a hurricane intensifies very fast and very quickly, it could undergo one of those ERCs, as they're abbreviated to. Hurricane Ida back last month started to do that about 10 hours before it made landfall, and it was midway through its completing its cycle when it made landfall, which made the storm actually even worse, because what happens in the middle, in between, is that there are two eye walls essentially. There's an outer eye wall and there's an inner eye wall. The inner eye wall is a lot stronger than the outer eye wall, but how Ida did it, it just made the storm a lot worse, because there was two eye walls you had to go through, that the people of Louisiana had to go through now. First eye wall came ashore, then the second eye wall came ashore, then it made landfall, then the other part of the second eye wall came ashore, then that final edge of the first eye wall followed suit. So, yeah, that's essentially what made it much more dangerous. So, thankfully, this thing isn't going anywhere near land at any time in the next week. So I'm really happy about that. But at the same time, if this undergoes an eyewall replacement cycle, it doesn't go well, could knock it down 10 to 15 miles per hour, but it will also expand it in size. Like Hurricane Irma underwent several eyewall replacement cycles in the eastern Atlantic when it was a Cat 3. It was going down to Cat 2, going back up to Cat 3, down to Cat 2. What those ERCs essentially did was expand it in size to a point where it was twice the size of Andrew. And by the time it exploded in intensity on its way to the Leeward Islands, it was a Cat 5 monster, and it was a pretty large one as well. So, yeah, that's my theory on why the NHC has it. But honestly, nothing is off the table at this point. Just want to put that out there. Now let's do the key takeaways. First key takeaway, this is a rapidly intensifying system. It's near 70 miles per hour right now. It might even be a hurricane at this point. If it's not now, it's going to be a hurricane in the next couple of hours. That's how this is go. That's how quickly this thing's intensifying. Second key takeaway: it's a small tropical storm. 45 miles from the center are the tropical storm force winds. Pressure is 997, so it is strengthening pressure-wise as well. Second key takeaway is that it just is that the models are somewhat of an agreement. Some of the models have it splitting, having more moving more towards the west northwest for in the short term. Then just in the long run, have it goes back to the general agreement in models. But the NHC has it moving to the west westerly for the next 36 hours, and then starting that turn. So yeah, this thing isn't going to make land. But if these two models kind of deviate, and if that's the case, then then basically the parts of the northern Leeward Islands here could see some impacts from that. So that's That's the third takeaway. The fourth key takeaway is just nothing is off the table at this point. Absolutely nothing is off the table. Majority of the models have it keeping it at Cat 3 strength. A few, like 6 of them or so, have it going up to Category 4 strength, and now we have our first Category 5 model of this whole system. So that really goes to show you this thing is at least going to be a Cat 2 at least be a major hurricane essentially. Cat 2 is like at least a 110 mile per hour Category 2 hurricane at this point. That's essentially what these models are saying. Hell, I'd go even further and say this is going to be at least a major Cat 3 hurricane, considering how quickly this thing's intensifying. So, yeah, that's the next key. Next takeaway. Final takeaway. As you can see, this system looks a lot better than it did 12 hours ago. You can see this on the radar. You can see that area of circulation just go like rapidly spinning around really fast, which makes it look a lot more like a hurricane than a tropical storm at this point. Which, like, I can understand the NHC going up to a 70-mile-per-hour tropical storm, but even I think that's a bit conservative at this point. Keep in mind, this is my personal opinion. This isn't talked about by any of the modeling or anything at this current time. This is just my personal opinion. I think this is already a hurricane at this point. I'm just being brutally honest. But again, this is my personal opinion. So, yeah, that's basically the update I have on Tropical Storm Sam. So be sure you hit the like button, subscribe to the channel, and turn on notifications for more updates.